Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Spike Drop. This week, we're going to be joined by former coach and current analyst Minnie, and we're going to be taking a look at Masters London, what has already happened within the playoffs, what is coming up within the playoffs, and most importantly, why he hates Breach.
So make sure to like and subscribe and comment which guest you'd like to see us sit down with next week on the Spike Drop podcast. Without further ado, let's get into it. Well, welcome to the podcast, Minnie. Thank you very much for joining us today. It's good to see you, mate.
Thank you. It's just the fact that we've spent about 10 minutes talking about how to start the podcast, and now we're starting the podcast.
We are.
Surreal,
the moment's finally come. I mean, is this the highlight of your career?
Absolutely.
I'm pleased to hear
with
that.
With your shoes there, it's beautiful.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. There's no mystery in this machine. I love that.
They are better than any trophy you could have received.
I've received some really beautiful trophies in my time,
Yeah.
and those shoes are the pinnacle.
Yeah, the only thing I'd
above
say is better than these is a champs trophy.
all. Ooh.
That's for sure.
Yeah, you know, get the digs in early, get them in
I
early.
think it's like, I think some coaches might be hit by that, but
Yeah.
I don't really mind.
I wouldn't expect you to be.
No.
I think we know each other well enough that I
No,
I
I
would
mean,
say-
like, the general idea of not winning champs doesn't really bother me.
Yeah, that's what I mean. I feel like I know you well enough that I know I'm not hitting a nerve there. But it is actually, that's an interesting conversation to hit a real topic real quick. Something Alfier said in an interview this week was about, he's won all these different events. He's won lock-in, he's won Masters, but the last thing he wants to do before he retires is champs. Did you ever feel like that? Stepping into broadcast, you think you left something behind?
I mean, on some level, but like, I think that my goal was 2023. I knew that was probably going to be my last year.
Going
And
into
so, yeah, I at the start of the year, and I told Fnatic very early on that I was going to quit.
it. Okay.
And then as long as we won something, I thought that was going to be the success.
Well, he's going to win it with Zeta Division anyway.
Yeah, that's going. Yeah. Let's win some games first, and then we can look at. Yeah. So I think now, after all of that, working with Fnatic that year and getting 2, and then obviously the stint with PaperX, now it looks more like it's a missing part of my CV, whereas before I didn't really consider it that way. And for players who have, I think, someone like Alpha who's got a longer career than me in that kind of space, it's the obvious kind of next step. And he's much younger than I am, so it's probably gonna,
But you're a coach, though. You can coach until you're 70.
Yeah, but
you
I
can
think
only play
I came
until,
into
like, what?
coaching thinking I was going to do it for like 5 years and then quit
Okay.
and go into something else, because it's just really difficult work that I just.
Quit or took a break?
Like,
are
I mean,
you-
if I go back like to head
Okay.
coaching, then something would have had to go wrong, I think.
Okay. Okay.
Okay.
Like,
So it's not like you have
So you
that,
love
that-
us on the broadcast so much.
I
that-
love the broadcast so much that I can't go back to coaching.
Okay,
in
that's
full-time
what it is,
capacity.
yeah.
It all makes
No, my
sense.
life is just much better right now. Like, before I did not see my friends. I did not, meet new people. I did not have any kind of life whatsoever.
Yeah.
All I did all day was do Valorant stuff, and it was not very healthy.
Yeah.
It got me, financially rewarded, and like is able to now make me live a life and have a lifestyle, and that is a lot better in terms of, I can balance my work. I can actually see people and stuff. So right now I'm just in a much better spot than before.
All right, so should we put that big brain to use?
Suppose
Bring
so.
up our wonderful playoffs bracket and basically just start talking about what we've witnessed over the last week. Because, yeah, I think in terms of the playoffs as a whole, we've had an awful lot of surprises. Like, I think there's only one or two people
some
who've
people,
predicted things correctly.
Some
and most people would think that those people are insane. I guess we can start
Lee
kind of-
talented.
we
Sorry.
can kind of start towards those opening matchups, and I think even just looking at that, we've had like a Turkish side of the bracket. We've got like, I guess, the non-Turkish side of the bracket. Going into it, Minnie, because I had this conversation with a couple of people. Did you look at that and think one of the sides was harder?
Yeah, I thought initially that when I was talking to Nats, Team Liquid, I was like, oh, you got Vitality and Fnatic. I thought that was the hardest side of the bracket. But I thought that with the context that I trusted Vitality to pick up their game from the group stage. Like, they weren't very good in groups at all. But I had a good sense that there are some easy fixes for Vitality. And if they fix those things, then, we see it now that they're actually pretty good at the game.
But are we surprised by, like, I know I'm skipping forward a bit, but the lower bracket semi-final, because it is basically we're going to get 2 of the 3 teams that were in that upper bracket, or the top half of it, that will be the ones making it through. And all the others have kind of been eliminated along the way. Like we lost Fnatic, we lost Liquid, and at least in Liquid's case, you kind of touched on it. They didn't look good.
It's one of those things where I think that obviously now with hindsight, the top side of the bracket isn't, definitely is not bad. And I think that there is this weird narrative that people seem to not really respect those teams in a way that they do deserve the respect. Like obviously this meta helps them because they're very aggressive Turkish teams that suits this kind of style of play. And I would argue that Fnatic, Vitality, Heretics, and even Team Liquid, they're not the kind of teams that suit this meta as much. But I also think there's some bracket stuff going on where it would have been interesting to see Fnatic play against Eternal Fire or Foot. And it would have been interesting if Gentlemates weren't, I'll be honest, the free game for Eternal Fire to get there, like how that might have played out. But yeah, no, I have to give respect for Foot and Eternal Fire, despite my kind of reservations about where the meta is and some of the ways that this game gets played right now. Yeah, I think they get underlooked.
I feel like you're gonna say you didn't like the Foot versus Eternal Fire game later on, but we'll get around.
It was
to that.
a mess.
I want to know: do you think that these teams typically are that their approach to the game is oversimplified? It was a conversation I had with the players we had with the players on the last podcast, the round table, which was Square, about how people tend to talk about them and did for a long time, and it's changed a tiny bit more recently. That they're just aggressive. They just run at you. They just fight. That's all they do. Yeah, Turkish teams in general.
I mean, it's a bit like PaperX to some degree, where I think that PaperX have more depth than people realize. I don't think the Turkish teams are at PaperX's level when it comes to some of the cerebral things that people don't realize. But I do think that there is still a lot of running around and individual firepower and stuff like that is rewarded in this meta, in my opinion. But that's at the same time, I do think that the fact that they're able to fight together and team fight is an aspect and skill set that for sure Fnatic don't have on the same level. Like when I think about the ways that when I was working with Fnatic, we didn't really think about the game in that way. It was very much like, this is the scripted way we're going to do our default, and this is the scripted way we're going to do our exec. You're going to throw this util at this timing, and Boaster might, orchestrate all of that. But we wouldn't kind of sit down and be like, oh, in this instance keeps happening at middle and breeze. Yeah. How do they naturally just team fight together off of weird timings and stuff? We would never go through that. And I think right now, I think I said it before, like if I was a coach right now, I'd be very much looking at the ways the Turkish team plays, the way the APAC plays, and the way they're able to naturally fight together.
Is that because your thinking has changed or the meta specifically?
I think because there's so much less utility in the meta, you are forced to use your gun more, and there's a much more focus on the ways that you're able to fight together without using util. Before, I was just util focused, and now there's less util, then you obviously have to look at the ways that you're fighting. A lot of these teams, I don't think about it necessarily. They're just naturally very good at it.
I'm also starting to get though onto the line of thinking, especially in this meta, that I'd rather send a Foot or an Eternal Fire than a Liquid, or maybe even than a Heretics, or than some of these other teams, because like look at Nongshim, I think is a great example. They played the meta better than anyone else.
I agree.
They won Masters. I don't think that if we sent Liquid again, there's any world where they win Masters. I think for Foot,
there's a weird
there's a weird, like there's more of a percentage chance of them winning. There's also more of a percentage chance of them bombing out immediately if people get a read on them, but they're just so flary and aggressive that it's possible they go on a run.
I think there's 2 points here that I would bring up. The first is I thought these Turkish teams would be kind of like the dojo partners for the quote greats in Europe to get better, but instead they just turned around and punched them really hard in the face and knocked them all out. It's like, wait, your training partner is actually better than us.
They were the dojo partners for a long time. Like go back a couple of years maybe. Time passes so fast, but like
you find out how good you are when you play Supermassive.
It was like there was like a barrier of skill, and they were the ones gatekeeping it. If you can punish them in scrims, then your system works. If not, they will show you why your system doesn't work.
Something I was talking to Anders about the other day is Anders was saying G2 often scrim partner against, like, I think it was maybe rankers back in the day. And I would do the same. I just book Turkish teams constantly just to frustrate the players and just find holes in any
Little
of our
Oxygen
strats.
Esports in the scrims
Pretty much,
and
yeah.
get everybody mad before VOD review.
Prime Russ.
I would say if we're sending these Turkish teams, though, I'd love them to be more the spicy second, third seeds, because if our first seed is someone like Vitality with the depth they have, I think that would bode better. Not that I think that they're better or anything, but like in my head, I was to like perfectly manage it. Oops, sorry. I would have like the spicy high variance team want to be the third seed, if that makes sense.
Well, I also think that it works for them as well, because if they were going to win, I want them to play the group stage, so they get the momentum, and then they go into the playoffs. Because I think if they sit there and watch all these other teams, I think the other team with momentum will beat them. Whereas I think Foot, or especially Eternal Fire, with momentum, like you're going to have Fabian just standing up and just getting everybody
that's one thing, right?
Worked up.
What if BBL played from the start, right? I think we had this conversation at last international, right? We had this conversation when it comes to the region of like how important is it for Turkish teams to have momentum, and that's the sort of thing we've always talked about. But we're luckily in a position now where we got to ask the players, and they said the same thing. They said that it is a huge factor for them. So I think I agree with you on that. Although Foot will clearly win, but yeah, we
talk BBL.
We definitely can.
I'm kind of like, because my sort of take on this is that there's multiple factors that have gone wrong for them, but the biggest one is I think they've stopped believing in themselves. Like, because I think the meta change shouldn't have hit them as hard as it did. I think people underestimate the fact that just because a team could play without Yoru, if a team moved completely to playing with Yoru, then going back to where you were before is way harder than just being there originally, because you've built a whole setup that's like, I can get aggro and just TP to the other side of the map, and now you have to remove everything and reset everything.
Yeah, for sure.
But like, even in their last game, I think it was the Breeze game they played, LaRock looked dreadful. Like, he got blasted, and I've not seen that
we were
going to
do a Neon ranking early on the desk, and I wanted to get LaRock into the Neon ranking because his stats were the worst in the league at the time, and I was going to do the joke of like...
Bippo?
I think at the time he was literally the worst. It might be close to Bippo, but like I was going to make the joke that LaRock was the worst, and everyone would be like, what the hell? And I was like, well, look at his stats. It's not very good.
Bottom. Nice.
But I think that back when it was Yoru Neon, it didn't make as much difference because he was making the space and stuff. But there's definitely been a weird thing about his Neon not looking great. I argued very early on the desk that he should just be on Raze a lot more. On maps where it's like large maps, maybe he's on Jet or something.
But like, I do agree that...
Or Phoenix, I guess, would have been obvious. They didn't play LaRock Phoenix once, I don't think.
I do agree that it's something that they should be able to adapt to, sure. Like, you can't just say it was the meta changes, but the meta changes plus the turnaround from the international, like, you've so little time to make what are fundamental changes to how you think about the game, how you play it. Like you said, you had all of these risks, and we said it throughout the entirety of the Yoru meta when we saw Lovers Rock take a million risks, get paid off for them, and get out. And it's like, and the rotations, and now you have to change everything around that. And I think from your perspective, you've been in this boat before. I can't think off the top of my head what turnarounds you normally had. I think they were longer.
Well, no, like even like one stage we were like, remember that Gambit split game that went 100 overtimes?
Yes.
Astra got nerfed before that game. We had a 5-day turnaround with an Astra nerf. And so it's like, that was pretty big back then.
Also,
I think
the further you got into tournaments, the worse it was for you because you were coming back so fast. So
yeah, that's
when
true.
you were at the peak of like winning events.
I mean, that year, to give some grace, like that year they didn't do many meta changes that were significant, so it wasn't too bad on that year. We succeeded. I do think that there is a narrative here that's a little bit under discussed, that the teams that don't do so well during the year usually they usually build their team quite quickly in the off season and then get a lot of off season ramp up because they're so ready for VCT. Whereas teams like the Fnatics who have gone to all those tournaments usually, they get invited to those off-season tournaments. I would argue they often don't use them very well. And then they come to Christmas, take some time off, and then they've got 2 weeks before the games start, and all the other teams have been practicing the entire time. I think that's one reason why KC found success in 2024, I believe, for kickoff.
Yeah.
They just hit the ground running the off-season. And the other teams, like the big teams, often aren't using that off-season as well, because you need to manage some of your kind of time and tiredness, I guess. And I think this is key for BBL. Like, they probably had a lot of practice going into the kickoff, and they're not used to having that 1 week, 2 week turnaround to play against. Maybe in tier 2 there was that sometimes, but honestly, they're gonna beat up most of tier 2 because they're so good anyway. In VCT, it's like adaptation is like the key thing during the season right now.
So do you think they'll be way better at stage 2 then?
They shouldn't be as bad here as what they were here, but that comes down to those other big issues, which is that kind of I put it on like Platchat, like the Turkish crisis they're having, where it's just like that Turkish kind of vibe where they're like really, really believing themselves, ego, like 100% confidence, and just, I was going to say, they're just crap talking all the time. And now I just see like a bunch of scared boys now. Like I don't see the same. They don't believe in, they don't believe in themselves. It doesn't look like they're a bit confused as to how to now philosophically work as a team. It's like a really interesting case study, and I think that like I keep bringing it up and I'm like, I don't know if I've done a good job of explaining it, or even like, but I find it so interesting. Like every week I'm watching them, just watching their faces and just watching every interview and really trying to dig deep on like, I just wonder how they're kind of approaching this, because like I keep saying, like they approach the team culture completely opposite to what I do. They've set themselves up the trap of like, we're really good, lose one game, oh no, existential crisis.
Yeah. And fan reaction as well. Like I think Masters especially, they got dumpstered. And although originally they kind of like shrugged it off, you saw an immediate downturn the second like people were really on them for everything. Because I think before that, I think I spoke to Ordaz about this when we were doing the roundtable, that like it is easier when you're an underdog because people don't expect you to be good. Yeah. And then in that, I think it was the last game of the split where you had them versus, no, it was the one before, where they're against Pacific, and it looked way more shaky. Yeah. And it was like, what was that? And I was like, is it because it was the first time you were the favorites? And he was like, yeah, I think it was. Like, we go in and we expected like everybody to be like, oh, there's no way they could win this. And then it's like, when you do, it's great. If you don't, that's what everybody expected.
I guess that's partly where my mentality came from in coaching, was that we're often like in Fnatic, we're often never the underdogs.
Never,
so like
never.
You have to keep a humbleness. And I guess that kind of ideology, I don't think Eternal Fire and Foot are quite the same as BBL, but there's definitely a lot of like bravado in some of the players. Like Sop is, got a bit of bravado. Eternal Fire for sure keeps saying that they're the best and stuff. And I do wonder, for some reason, I'm not as worried about them if they were to crash out. But like, I do wonder if the trajectory of that kind of culture, like where it will go for these teams if they do not succeed, like BBL didn't hit the heights they probably thought they were going to hit.
Yeah. I want to go on to sort of the other side of things, because I think like we came in, Vitality, everybody was pretty low on them, including myself. I think like the comm stuff we heard was so bad that everybody just immediately panicked. Is them making this run through the bracket them improving massively, or some of the other teams having issues, or a bit of both?
I think the bar was so low for their like I'm not lying, like the comms were abysmal, and then the defense is something we kept bringing up, was they're the second worst defense in the league behind Pacific, and it looked like they just didn't have a system, or the system was just being ignored. Like people are just running around like headless chickens. Yeah. And then coming into playoffs, that's two, I'm not gonna like, not the most difficult things in the world to fix. And it seemed like, we get some members in the background. I can hear Powell being like, oh, the system's going to be followed next week. And on the desk, you got Dirk and Chronicles saying that like, we just need to shut up and listen to Yampi more. And it felt like it was obvious that there was a direction that was going to happen. And so I did have a bit more faith in Vitality than the group stage for sure, because they're just obvious fixes.
Did that comms clip that blew up help them? Because I feel like it did. I feel like that being showed to the community reacting in a way of like, this is the worst team ever, kind of forces everybody to go, oh wait, this is so bad that even the plebs can tell that we now need to fix that immediately.
It probably did, but I'm confused why it even was there in the first place. Like it probably shouldn't be that bad.
It's especially surprising. Well, too many cooks. No one was talking. that's part of the
everyone
issue.
Was talking.
We had several clips where like sometimes everyone was talking, no one was listening, and sometimes everyone was listening, no one was talking.
It was KC when no one was talking.
KC was the worst. Yeah, that was horrendous.
That was just them going dead silent.
Yeah, but like I do think that the surprising thing about their roster the surprising thing is their roster having that issue, because experience. You say it's not a difficult thing to fix, but with the wrong players, it is a difficult thing to fix, right? And,
Sure.
But
Yeah.
I don't expect that from any of them. And then Sayonara's been, it seems like a good contributor towards the comms. So it was so perplexing that they would have
I think
that.
it would be harder to fix with a team with more ego. I think there's obviously,
That makes sense.
if you're a great player, you're going to have some ego. But I worked with them, so maybe in my head I was just like, I know Chronicle and Dirk. If Power tells them shut up, they are probably going to shut up. And so I was just like, I think
Or if he tells them to follow the plan, yeah.
Yeah.
But it did definitely feel like they hit their flying V, their Mighty Ducks run in the end. They found their formation. And I think that, some people wouldn't have seen it coming. But it is something that, was it something that surprised you?
What surprised me was they obviously improved. But I don't think they're at a level yet where it's like there's still a lot of a ceiling to still go.
Oh, yeah.
And so for me, it was like, wow, if they had just done this from the start, which
Where
I
would
think
they
was
be?
fairly fundamental
Yeah.
things, how high was that ceiling? And I'd be a lot more confident about EMEA going to London. I think that going to London, they should be one of the hot teams because there is so much more that they could push on. It's just about whether they do.
Yeah.
I think that was the sort of slightly worrying thing for me with Vitality. I think coming into playoffs, I wanted to see them. We had group stage, we saw issues, and I was sort of being generous in saying they didn't have the time to fix those issues, or they weren't making the best use of it, or for whatever reason the issues were still there. But when it came to playoffs, you would have this little gap in between, and with those players, with the problems that they had being, seeming from the outside to be fairly easy to fix, that they would have that turnaround. And I wanted to see them hit that run kind of right from the start. And obviously they got there with the Fnatic game especially. But the Team Liquid game, do you think that they adjusted quickly enough coming into playoffs? Did they look strong enough for that bounce back? Because then that makes me think, how are they going to make use of the time between now and London, right?
Yeah, I think the Team Liquid game, I still had some concerns, particularly about the defense stuff. But I think that was kind of clearly in the Fnatic game. I think that a lot of things got fixed. I will note though that they are now going to be playing against a Turkish team, and I think that their spree against the Turkish teams has not looked as nice. Like Dirk, often, if you look at the stats for him versus the Turkish teams this year, he's not doing the same things as what he was doing against Fnatic. Okay. Against Fnatic, he was on the jet on that breeze, just farming every single round because Fnatic's slow style.
They lost both in groups, right?
They lost both to, I think,
BBL and Eternal Fire.
Yeah, in groups. And then even earlier in the year, it just felt like they had that BBL game where BBL 2-0'd them, I believe. And it just feels like when a team is able to punch in the face kind of style, that is when they look their worst. And obviously the meta right now is all about that. So I think the game versus Foot is a big kind of question mark as to how they might handle a lot of these aggressive teams in London. Because obviously APAC are going to be there doing that kind of style too. If they draw some bad matchups where it's not that kind of more calculated EMEA Americas kind of vibe, then that might be their weakness right now.
I'm going to ask you later. I'm going to just shelf it so one of us will remember.
What?
But because we're going to talk about the meta, obviously. So I'll be curious to see your discussion after we get through that of is there like a rock, paper, scissors right now within the meta and how it plays and like where the strengths lie? Because as you said, for a long time we viewed the Turkish teams within EMEA as like training wheels, right? You chuck them on, you learn how to ride the bike, and then you can leave them behind. And we often did. They didn't make it to the big internationals. They weren't contenders for titles. They'd be contenders for top 6, something like that. They were good, but not the best. And I wonder if our sort of perceptions of that are going to change now with further nerfs and all the stuff that's coming. But that'll be an interesting conversation for later.
Can we look? I want to take a look. I believe we have the stats as well from the Liquid versus Mates game, because that was one that really, I'll be honest, it really threw me, because I saw that first map. I think it was a 13-4. And I was like, okay, massively dominant victory for Liquid. And then I almost just tuned out. I was like, okay, GG, game over. Liquid are going to win.
Exactly what
They're
I
in the
did.
lower bracket.
Yeah,
Easy peasy. And then they got absolutely blasted in the third map. And I was kind of just sat there like, what has happened to Liquid? Why is Nats maniacally laughing while they're 12-0 down? Like, it was really, really poor.
I don't know. What was the second map? Ascent? Yeah, Ascent was a bit of a back and forth.
Yeah,
It
it was a middle ground.
And then Fracture felt like genuinely Mates just had a way better Fracture. It felt like early on, Gentle Mates were doing all these defensive pushes, which are great on the map. You have Martin on Phoenix just being able to push out. He's no longer on some veto. And Team Liquid they just didn't win any of those early moments and then collapsed, basically. I mean, their composition has been criticized quite a lot. I don't think it's as bad as maybe people think, but it is definitely... I don't think it's bad because, like, in a first... They haven't shown this comp before, and it's a kind of comp where you come in with a bunch of strats, you could just run them on the attack side. But the problem is that the way they're running some of the strats, it just allowed Mates to push out on them and isolate their splits.
Yeah.
And so I don't think they thought it through maybe necessarily fully. So yeah, I don't know.
Because one of the things we'll always say with Liquid is they're not going to win events. I think the best they've ever finished, you have to go all the way back to like champs in 2021 where they got top 4 with Scream playing. It's been a long time since we've really thought that maybe they would compete. I guess the safe roster as well. Like people thought it would be good and then it just wasn't. But is this a low for them? Because like they always made it. That was the thing. You go, okay, maybe they're not winning, but they always made it. This is the first time where I've gone, yeah, that just looked bad.
Well, my take on the roster was that it wasn't... I didn't have high hopes for them. I thought they're a middle of the pack kind of team. I usually do think that with Liquid, and then they usually exceed expectations. I think that's probably a credit to the leadership. I think I had that narrative coming into kickoff, and then it looked like that was probably going to be the case. And then they 3-0'd Fnatic with those comps that was like 1 week of prep or something. And then ultimately didn't do too well at the event. So I think that maybe this might be hindsighting is that, well, I guess I kind of predict it at the start, but I'm now like reverting back to my hindsight that maybe the team just doesn't have as much depth as we originally thought.
Yeah.
But then I think some criticism to coaching staff over things like that Fracture, I think is definitely justified, which is rare that I have those complaints about that kind of side of things with Liquid.
Is Mates a little bit more straightforward though? Because I feel like I don't want to ever just harp on an individual player, but I am sat there just going like, I know that they have spoken about Beepo and having moments where he is creating space, but I feel like as duelists go in the league, he is the worst.
Yeah, I mean, it was the strange thing to me. I tried to do a telestrator, which obviously broke on me because technology just breaks on me. I think that Beepo, like the way I was framing the tele was that Mates were not setting him up for success.
Okay.
But and the system he was working in would only work if you had like a top 5 Neon in the world, which is a very reckless system. And he clearly is not one of them. I think in a lot of those situations, a better Neon player would still get some value. But he was both being not set up for success and also not good enough to capitalize. And so kind of the writing is on the wall a little bit. I think that he's struggling too much. I think they tried to role adjust him in that last second with the Jet and the Raze and stuff, but he clearly is a weakness on the team right now.
What do you think is the reason then for like when we had Starzo on, for example, he addressed that. He said like the community shits on Bippo. They constantly talk about how he's not good enough and whatever, but they don't understand the system that he's playing and that he is providing value. Is that just, you know, an IGL protecting his player? Like
I don't know Starzo well enough. He's obviously always gonna. I imagine he's the kind of person who would always protect.
Yeah.
There is an element where I was going to blame the coaching staff for that. And then obviously now they got the coaching staff change. So I was hoping that maybe Kundi can start to look at those kind of things. I think there probably is an element of not understanding how that system should be working. Like
from their side internally.
Yeah,
like
I think you can say making space is what you want, but at the end of the day, you need players alive. And like, you can't just send someone off and then die, and then the space isn't made if he dies and no one's close to capitalize on that space.
It's gone again.
So it's just, there are moments where they're probably right, but most of the time I think they're wrong.
It also feels like another case of like a bit like I think about Na'Vi at times, where there's just wasted potential on that roster. Like Martin is so good. I think Mini is a fantastic player as well. It's like those two I have high expectations of. I think Stars has proven at times he can be an incredible IGL. Like I think some of the attack side calling especially has looked very good. So it's like I sit there and go like, you do have a guy that it just feels like he's just dying immediately in rounds. It's like, okay, maybe their setup doesn't help him, but I do have to think that maybe there's someone that they could look at and go like, give it a go, take a risk and put him in the team.
Yeah, I imagine their roster looks different for stage 2. Oh, also the coaching staff, I know they changed out Kundi. Like, I wonder who they'll get for assistant.
But they changed out Paco, kept Kundi, moved him up to
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
top.
I'll be wondering who they fill that kind of assistant coach spot with too. Yeah, I mean, even that I was a bit concerned about. Like, something must have gone on behind the scenes, because usually, like, the way I would ratio it is like the amount you have success is the amount you get grace after.
Okay.
They had a full stage of like greatness. Like, they exceeded expectations during kickoff. Their Santiago wasn't amazing, but it's like wasn't expected to be amazing.
Yeah.
And so he didn't get the full. I know it was only like 1 or 2 more games, but to not give him the full stage, I thought was a little bit weird. Like, I would usually match the grace period with the success period.
Okay.
What do you guys? How do you guys view that?
I was surprised he was dropped, because I also think, like, as a football fan, Tottenham have done that. You go into we were going into a grand final, fired the manager, brought in another one, then that manager loses, and the fan reception immediately is like, didn't fix everything, did you? Like, it's not like a good look for the person who's kind of taken over. It's like you've set that person up to have a bit of an awkward like thing. Obviously, he's part of the same team already, so I don't think it's anywhere near as bad, because it's like, I think people understand it's a transition period. But I also think that in this case, there was, like, again, I don't want to just harp on Beeper, but it feels like there's more of a glaring issue, be it whether you think it's him or whether you think it's just the way they're set up.
Yep.
I don't think there was anything for me that went, oh, you've changed coach, that's now going to fix things, because you also kind of haven't changed coach. You were there. I guess it just didn't work well together.
It'd be interesting to know what the comp changes, because some of the comp changes are very strong, like getting Martin away from that Vita, getting Mini away from Breach. I wonder if that might have been a tool part of the whole...
Do you know what would be really cool, though? If Paco now goes to KC.
That would be cool.
Because he was on the academy before, so he already has a relationship with KC. If then we get KC mates with their old coach facing their new one, that would be such a cool storyline.
Teams have been, like, way too eager, though, for a long time, though, to just, there's a bump in the road, change the tires. Like, almost every time, I feel like a
change
big team,
the coach, especially.
Yeah, right? Like, change the driver, get that steering wheel out. Like, it's like superstition almost, I feel like, from an org standpoint. I know that Fnatic has, at least from my side, from the outside perspective, been very good with that sort of stuff over time. I know there's been changes, but other organizations, I feel like a lot of the time jump the gun. Have you seen that sort of from looking around at your friends in the scene?
I think a lot of the time the scouting in the first place isn't good enough.
Okay.
And then they end up having to make the better scouting decisions. But at that point, it's harder to make a good scouting decision halfway through the season than it is early on. So yeah, I think a lot of the times there's a few EMEA teams where I feel like that is.
You kind of mentioned Fnatic, and I feel like we were always going in that direction anyway.
Why?
Because we've always talked about kickoff curse. We've accepted that as a community, which, by the way, is kind of mad. But we've always gone like, kickoff curse. They didn't make it because it was kickoff. And then in stage 1, like going 5-0, everybody was on board. They won a game with an assistant coach. They won a game dominantly with a brand new player. It kind of went to shit in playoffs, but I feel like I think they kind of screwed themselves because they did so well with a stand-in for 2 weeks in a row.
Yeah.
People went, including me, they're just going to do it now with a stand-in again. And then the cracks started to show this week.
It's not like anyone did a monologue saying Fnatic's bad. That'd be real embarrassing right about now. But yeah, I mean, it did definitely feel like they were hitting their stride now. Like the 5-0 and everything. Like, I asked a bunch of players, is there a best team right now? For a long time, there was always a best team in the EMEA. Even going back to the Summon FC days, you had your G2 of the time. And it feels like, maybe we're in a point where there could be a question about who is the best. And the players were like, no, Fnatic, clearly. Look at their performance. They're clearly... And then
6 different international teams going in. That's crazy. The first 2 events where we're getting all different teams for every single one. Yeah.
I mean,
I
obviously.
think it's also globally, that's the trend is, if you look at APAC right now, I mean, China's a little bit different. We're seeing some familiar faces, but I would say the competition there's kind of more distinctly top heavy.
Why is that?
I think the biggest surprise would be Americas as well. If Americas have different teams, because we kind of always expect G2 every time. I think we always expect NRG now, But like, if we get some, like, I think Furia making it a kickoff was definitely a huge surprise to everybody coming into the year.
Yeah, well, why do you think that is, that the changes have happened? Like, obviously, it could just be happenstance. Is it the meta?
I do think
schedule?
that the meta variance is quite high. I don't want to like then like not give the flowers to the teams that are doing well, but I do think that there is, you know, if there is a focus less on utility, able to clear out untradeable agents, and you know, shotguns are very strong. Like there is just a little bit more variance right now, and I think it's really hard to be consistently great. It already was very hard in Valorant to be consistent because there's a lot of, you know, I wouldn't say luck, but like you snowball on ult, and then you know you can get a 6-0 lead very early on, and right now it's like at its peak. I feel like.
I think what's kind of telling for me, and not to give Fnatic too many flowers, but is it over time?
I guess I don't want to make that point. I always am making that point, and then we're talking about Fnatic. I'm not giving Fnatic like full grace on that side. I think that there's grace for Fnatic when it comes to they did have a change, and we did kind of over expect, I think, a little bit, given the fact that they did have a roster change. They did beat up people in groups, but I feel like they didn't really get challenged. And so because they didn't get challenged, they probably also thought they were very good.
Also,
and then,
for Sevov,
you know,
for Sevov, he played a game, the first game he played, had no value. Like, they were already number one in the group, so there's literally no pressure. It was just go in, do any damage you can. The next game you play is against probably your biggest rival right now. There's the built up, your former team or the members that ultimately you're kind of quasi replacing because you're standing in, the ones you're going to be compared against. And then in the lower bracket, it's the team that, like, basically if you're going off the best team of 2025 and then the best team of 2024 and then the best team of 2023, it literally goes Fnatic, Heretics, Fnatic. So I feel like the second that pressure went up, that's where we saw Sevov struggle, as he probably should. It's a way harder game to play in. I don't think he was awful. No. It was just like, you could tell there was a dip, but also it looked like Boaster was way more micromanaging potentially, or having to, like, it wasn't the same giggly, laughy, like, haha, that's a good one, bro. It was much more like pressure, and that was felt.
Yeah, I think there's a lot in there, especially with Boaster, because obviously we've seen, I don't know if you guys saw, but like he did an interview, and I'm not going to watch it, but it was like pretty depressing, the kind of pull quotes and clickbait that was coming from it, where it's like he was just basically saying he was washed or something, which is very hard to see.
He's always been hard on himself, though.
Yeah, but I think that this time around, like, I remember, again, like, he had a very good group stage individually.
Yeah.
And I was worried for him having a good group stage because I was like, there's some things I know about him. I don't want to say too much, but it's like, I felt that, like, that might set him up into a trap where if he starts playing poorly in the playoffs, where, like, the stakes are higher, and his role is to be the IGO. His role isn't to drop 30 kills. Yeah. And instead of just treating it maybe as like it's nice that I'm playing well, it's an actual embodied, like, no, I'm really good at the game right now. Yeah. And I think that could have been a trap.
Is it that, or is it I have to keep playing well?
In an interview, he said that I want to keep ramping up. And I was like, that's not what you want to be doing now.
I think as well for Fnatic, like, people have to bear in mind that this event meant way more than for anybody else, because, like, the amount of stuff they already had planned, where it's just like, yeah, we're going to get to London, we're going to have all these stuff for the fans. Like, I think they're still going to do a lot of that stuff, but it definitely helped if you were in the tournament as well. Like, have all the stuff with the players meeting fans, and because it is not only the home event of the org, but also the home event of Boaster, it was just like this, you had to go. Like, you had to make it. They then go 5-0 in groups. Everybody goes, it's done. They need to win one game. Of course it's done. And I think that just got to a pinnacle of, like, almost just ridiculous amount of pressure, when in reality, like, if it was a normal event, sure. And obviously, I think if you didn't have your stand-in, I would have thought, well, you even look at the last game, like the one versus Heretics. I don't think this is anything to do with Sevov, but if you have the team you've been playing with the entire time, they literally lost in OT to, like, crazy rounds. So it's like, realistically, it could have easily gone their way.
Yeah, without a doubt. And I do wonder, all that extra pressure of the event itself, even the idea that, you know, them as a team, they always adapt to the meta. They did pretty well with the 5-0 in groups, but that they always suck in kickoff and bounce back. They never miss 2 international events in a row. All these things, do you think as a competitor, they really do build up? Like, was this just an unlucky streak that would have happened any other time in this meta in a vacuum? Or did all those things pile up on them? Outside of the standing, because, I mean, if you say that didn't have impact, you're crazy.
I mean, I think the standard thing is the key thing. I think there was obviously a little bit more pressure about it being London, but I don't think they would have treated... I think the bigger pressure would have been, you know, we didn't qualify to Santiago despite having multiple opportunities. Yeah. We've now lost to Vitality, who kind of did kind of dominate in that game. Yeah. And that's another opportunity.
Who we beat 9 times in a row before that.
And also there's a bit of a personal gripe there too.
Yeah.
And then they go to the lower bracket, and I think that they probably would have known that like it was going to be tough to go through that. Like, even though they had to win 2 games, I think it's still a tough lower bracket going through Heretics. And then
they've done that.
Yeah, but it's Fnatic with, you know, I mean, even the start of the year they lost Chronicle. I feel like that's still a big talking point that they did lose a huge player on the team.
Yeah.
They come to
big moments player as well. I think that was always the thing with Chronicle, is like, put him in the most important match of the year, he has his best game most of the time. Whereas like, I think there are other players, it's like the second you get to crunch time, either they're the same or slightly worse. I think he's very good in those moments.
One thing I noted the other day was that I do think in terms of meta, like they are... I don't know what a Fnatic comp is anymore. Like, they don't have comps nowadays that are like, oh, that's the Fnatic comp. Everyone's going to steal that theory now. I think for a few years now, it's been a very, like, standard default. And that's not the worst thing in the world, but I think they are missing that spark sometimes when it comes to interesting reads. And I know there maybe isn't the most interesting stuff right now. I would argue that Vice America's brought that in early, and I think that would have been my interesting read if I was, you know, in a team where they wanted to run Vice. But
also, Alpha's Vice is also nasty.
That's the weird thing. In kickoff, he was playing Vice.
Yeah,
I was like,
Road a lot. Right?
Yeah, I was like a bit like about it, but I think it was a lot of implementation where they didn't use cross map thorns. They would still get rushed on Abyss. I remember them playing like Team Liquid or something. They get rushed like every round on A. And then they didn't do cross map thorns, or they didn't really think about the ways Alpha could. I think there's a lot of skill depth to Vice we weren't seeing. And then it was surprising that they didn't realize that with the Neon popularity increasing, that there was that interaction there. So yeah, that's like one thing. It's just the general, there's no Fnatic comp that, you know, everyone's just going to look at that map and everyone steals it, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, as well, though, I feel like the game in its current state, we're heading towards a direction where that should be super viable. Like, looking forward to stage 2, for example, if we have this constant babysitting from Riot of going, this agent's getting played too much, this one's too strong. We've seen it if Cypher's played too much. In the old days, Killjoy gets above, Killjoy's played too much. We always want that to be around the 50-50, or at least feel like everyone's viable. And I think with this meta, or at least the one before, it's not as easy to do that, to have your identity, because there was one clear identity to play. Whereas moving into the next stage,
I think that's an opportunity for sure.
That should be where they really flourish.
Especially with time.
Interesting.
Yes, but now more than ever, they've got time going into stage 2. They never do. They're usually coming off the back of an international, so a deep run in international.
I think maybe this goes back to the meta thing where less utility. Boaster in some of these maps wants the KO a little bit more. He wants a bit more of that utility, and so they are forced into playing certain comps that kind of alleviate the meta, kind of hurting Boaster's ability to do his kind of IGLing style. So that might be the reason why they can't then do more interesting kind of...
Is that just for the people that don't like know the inner workings of it? Like, how viable is it then for him to change his IGLing style, right? If that was another avenue rather than finding a new niche to play, if they were to go, okay, hard commit, we're going to play the meta if it stays as it is that an easy pivot to make as a player?
Well, it's something we were discussing before was, and he even tweeted about it, was Summon FC, when he was a noob IGL, the idea was he would just make strats a lot of the time and we would just do set pre-round barrier calls.
Okay.
And he would make some of the best strats in the world. And so we would play very fast back then.
Okay.
And I think that over time we became a team where, like, because we had lots of great players and we were an overdog team. We didn't want to play a high variant style. And now it's like got to the point where the meta kind of wants you to play a bit more variants. And they do rush much more than they did last year, I think. They do have a more strats.
Not going down to the 10-second mark.
No. But I think, I think that it's just about balancing the two. Having some of your set rounds and then having his ability to do stuff that other people can't with the kind of mid-rounding. But frankly, there isn't as much options. It's hard to default in this meta.
Well, I kind of want to now touch on something you've mentioned, which is Alpha Year, and you've mentioned Vice. Now, those two things play in wonderfully
Ringing some bells here.
to our clips of the week. So I would love to bring up, we've got a new segment where we're going to be each picking a clip, or maybe some people will pick 4 clips and make us combine them all together.
Yeah, maybe some people.
I wonder who did that.
Some people won't really understand what a clip is, but that's fine. We're accommodating
you
here.
know, it took me going in and finding out. But you know, you're welcome. But we're going to be starting with you, Mitch, because I may have slightly spoiled your clip just a little bit, but luckily for you, there was so many options to choose from with Alpha. Yeah?
People are still like, but which round is it though?
Yeah.
I think for me, I chose clip of the week as, you know, it was a game that eliminated the team that I'm going to highlight. But we're in the same boat. Obviously, look, this round was for those that didn't watch, go back and watch it and then come back here. And then
go watch the whole Ascent.
Yeah. You say go watch it, yeah?
Yes.
I thought you said don't watch it for a second.
I think that second half in particular was
unbelievable.
Phenomenal. Absolutely phenomenal. And a sensational game. And this, I think, was the turning point for Fnatic. If I'm not mistaken, they got 5 rounds in a row after this. And I think that, you know, rounds are often independent with a little bit of learning in between them. But I think this play was the specific reason that they were able to make this run back into the game, to get to overtime.
Well, let's bring it
to
up.
ultimately lose. Let's take a look. Oh, it's so beautiful. So 2 versus 5 at this point.
They had 1 gun in the round, right? I think it was just Alpha that ended up with a gun.
Yeah, well, you can see Crashies only has a sheriff. Minnie, was there a moment here? Even a split second?
Benji was the one who was like, after the game, he's like, oh, sorry for inting that round. I didn't realize he just
tried to
trade.
Yeah, he tried to trade after his teammate died.
And I mean, the peek from Alpha was nice as well. He just peeked Jen, pre-fired it, and that guy happened to be out a little further. That prompted the trade to come through from Benji. He baits him here, makes it to halfway, and then perfectly done. I mean, it's outrageous as well. Rian's being the last guy who was on fire against him. This play, I think, in that 2v5, from my perspective, there was a 0% chance of victory. Like, it looked impossible. They had 1 gun, for God's sake.
Yeah, I mean, like, it's one of those moments where there were mistakes Heretics made.
Oh, 100%.
But, like, in order to capitalize on it, you have to be as good as Alpha.
But
like,
I was
going to say, the 1 kill that Crashies gets is the one that wins them the round as well, because that was actually, like, I understand Benji apologizing, because if he just sits back, the round is over. But it's like Alpha is looking this way. He kills a guy here. So Benji just goes, if I swing off this, he is dead. And that's the instant shot that Crashies kills him to get him back into the round.
It's also Benji's understanding at that moment that you have a high-low setup on Jen, right? You have 2 players. One was crouched, one was stood up. The guy stood up was a little wider out than the one crouched, if I'm not mistaken. So Alpha goes in to take that fight, and you assume 2 of my teammates are now in a fight. I need to get involved. I don't think what he did was wrong, even in that moment. Just a misunderstanding that Alpha had actually peeked, shot, and gone back in. Like, he wasn't pushing, he wasn't retaking.
Hiding.
You think
like,
he still hides?
Because the plant is like such a weird.
It's just run the time down with all 5.
Good. Yeah, like I think in those post plants, it's like the people on site can int a little bit and they're suspected to die, and then the off site just cleans up.
What I mean is, though, I understand why he did what he did.
Yeah,
I don't think it was just like like if Alfred never peeked and he just swung that, he's a moron.
Yeah. Oh, 100%.
But in that scenario, I see that his teammate gets killed. He goes, he's looking that way. I can kill him.
Yeah.
Is it the optimal play? No. But at the same time, I go, I understand why he did it.
I do that on stream. I'm like, I don't know why he did that. I know why, like the mechanics of the thinking, but I don't agree with the result of the decision, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Well, you now have follow-up.
Yeah, so basically, because I knew you did that 2v5, I was like, let's have a look at some of the things afterwards, because I think the story for this match was because Alfia's site holds on B were so good, it created this like very
Should we start? Let's start right, because he's got a few to go through. Let's start running his clips.
I'm making this podcast the longest cross podcast. So this is the round after. So here we see Heretic. This is, I think, the round after 2v5, and Alpha's on this B site. He's just holding it down. You know, there's low time here, difficult for Heretics, but you can see the shots that Alpha's hitting, kind of form he is in. And this is basically the story of like this middle section of the second half where Alpha does this round. And I think the round after, I believe, is another clip where he is doing it once again. Like, I think this is like straight.
This one's even more nuts because someone's jumping on his head.
His decision making here is horrible. Like, he's vice ulting against essentially an eco whilst getting dived on his head.
Yeah.
But he still comes out on top and holds once again. And so at that point, I'm like, he's 102v5. You've gone B twice and he's just shut you down completely. And then after this clip, you see Heretics immediately time out. But it's like the most obvious timeout of all time. This timeout is, oh, maybe we just don't go to Alpha.
The other way.
We were talking about that on the cast.
And so then, like, on the net, this is then coming out of the timeout. The next clip was basically, you know, Fnatic then read that quite well. The minimap we can't quite see quite, but like it's like a 3-man stack on A, a very good idea against what Heretics basically run, which is an A main, like 4-1 A main. They're probably going to try and go A. In my opinion, I think they probably should have baited out Alpha's util a little bit, kind of faked him out a little bit, and then gone A. Heretics went a little bit too simple here, but it still works out in the end for Heretics. They're able to get these trades off. I think that Fnatic probably did a bit of a disservice, like overfighting the A main, and maybe could have just stacked A. Maybe it's a bit hindsight, obviously, because they do die and like lose the trades here, but Heretics, I believe, still lost that round despite it.
They would have.
But it was interesting to see the chess match afterwards because in my head I was like, I'm now viewing. I could be wrong, but I was then viewing the entire game through the lens of Alpha and the avoidance of B, or Fnatic thinking, well, they might come back to B now because they should think that Alpha's not here, and the kind of mind games between the chess game of when a player is dominating so hard in a game, it becomes like that is the whole rhythm of the cooling. Then is how do we get away from this guy who's just, and Alpha does that time and time again, and it becomes something that you have to think about all the time, but unfortunately not enough.
Yeah.
So just to be clear, which one of those was the clip of the week?
I'll be honest, I didn't realize it was clip of the week. I was just like, I'm just gonna build off what
He's
Mitch
gone for
done.
match of the week. The Rian's ace didn't make it in there, by the way, so clearly the Fnatic bias is showing to
Oh, Mitch is doing Fnatic. I'll do Fnatic. Tom, you should do Fnatic.
Do you know what's good though? Because I have done a clip with Heretics involved.
I thought you were going to say Fnatic.
No, it's not
walk
Fnatic.
out.
No, it's much earlier in the week. But the clip it's a clip for Eternal Fire.
Okay.
It's a clip that's a whiff, and it's a clip that is a clutch for Heretics. So
okay.
I'd like to just roll my clip because I think that
I know what this is.
It's a beautiful showcase of how good the Bandit can be if you are a Turkish superstar and not me. Because a lot of this was just Ordaz straight bullshit kills with this gun all the way up until the last one. And that's kind of the depressing thing is he does incredibly well. He gets a wallbang kill with a bandit, which really shouldn't do that much damage. You've got players running in, fighting him one by one, which is horrific. The unfortunate truth, though, is from this position, they do not win the round because Benji Fishy kills everyone.
Yeah.
And then he giga whiffs all of the last bullets at the end.
That's my bandit right there.
Exactly. Like he showed us how good the bandit can be, and then what goes wrong at the end. So yeah, that's my clip of the week.
I will say that's the one thing about it is that the second that you miss your first shot with the bandit, I remember when we did the video about it coming out before we got our hands on it, and we had it in testing range, right? And I was like, bro, the fire rate is so good. The problem is every bullet after the first goes that way. It just goes up into the sky. It's gone. I've never killed anyone with anything other than first bullet accuracy on that weapon. I believe you have to tap it.
I feel like this week has become more popular. I think even in America's when I'm watching there's been some, I'm like, oh, that gun isn't as bad as what I think people might think. Yeah. It's just it feels so bad when you do miss.
I think it's something that's so easy for the Outlaw, for example, to be plug and played into a round. It already fits like another weapon in the game. It's like the Marshall basically, and you get kills for it so often on the low buy rounds and so on. It's easy in ranked, for example, to take that and just you can play only that if you want. But I think the Bandit it's taken the community a lot longer to pick up, not just at the ranked level but at pro level as well. Like I don't think we really saw it when it first came out. No. Like maybe one or two players bought it a handful of times.
Also, it's like a weird gun because it's like you don't want to be you kind of want to be short range, but if you're at the range of like a shorty,
then why not a shorty?
You could be shotgun or shorty.
That's the interesting thing, and I'm gonna say one thing before we move on to what is our patch notes, because we are going to be talking about that. But firstly, if you have a clip of your own, make sure down in the comments below, let us know. Also, let us know what you thought was the clip of the week. Were you a fan of just that one game of Fnatic versus Heretics like these two guys were? Or did you actually watch some other games of Valorant that week other than just that one half of a map? But make sure to let us know. The one of the patch notes that it's in the future. It's not the most direct ones, which we are going to talk about as well. But we have that sort of buff to the Bandit coming up later in the year. I think it's after Masters. Does it need a buff? Because I'm not sure it does. I'm seeing teams start to use it more now, and I think it's a little bit more RNG than some of the other pistols.
Sure.
But I think that's where it should be. I think if you make it more accurate, it's too strong.
I think Riot are usually aware of that, and sometimes they do buffs that are like catfish buffs. Where
Let's get everybody to like it.
Let's like do a buff that doesn't really actually do much, but because it's buffed, people might use it more.
People will try it and then realize what they've been missing out on.
Yeah, so that might be the type of buff. If they do a genuine buff, then it's going to be a disaster.
I have heard about that in League sometimes where they're like, we think this character should be at a 20% pick rate and they're at a 10%. Let's buff them so they should be 40%. Everyone's going to play them and then we put them back to where they were roughly so that people respect it now. It's in their wheelhouse. But that's the thing, is it's hard to convince people to try something new. It's a low buy round. I've always played Ghost. I've always played Sheriff on the low buy round. Why would I not play Sheriff on the low buy round again? Do you think so when we talk about a Bandit buff, obviously second bullet accuracy or some sort of narrowing of the spray, but that might make it too strong. Do you think they go for the price? Maybe drop it by 100 so pistol round's more viable? Although I think they want it outside of pistol. I think that was the goal.
I think it's the outside of pistol. So I think the price will be that big. That doesn't make it feel like, oh, I want to buy it now. It's more like
well, because especially in a pistol, you still might as well just buy a Ghost because it's more accurate and
well, the thing would be utility. You might be able to get some if they dropped it a bit more.
Nats used to use the Ghost all the time on ecos and used to farm us all the time ecoing us with a Ghost. And I was just like, shorty, he would be like a perfect like Bandit player because it's not quite Ghost range, but it has that kind of play style. I feel like
bit more spammy than a Sheriff and like
but it's nowhere near as spammy as a Ghost. I mean, you missed the first shot with a Ghost. You just
but the way Nats would use that Ghost is very like dink dink dink.
That's fair,
like
he learned something from Scream.
He did. Yeah.
That's a good point, actually. If they buff the Bandit, is it the Scream meta? Is he coming back?
Didn't he announce his return to Counter-Strike?
He's swapped games like 3 times at this point.
But he's going to see these patch notes and he's not going to see these patch notes.
Someone send him the patch notes.
He would be good on Phoenix right now. It would be a decent meta.
Yeah.
Bandit Phoenix.
Oh my goodness. We actually could see the return.
His neon, like the overdrive, like the ult, was nasty because it's just a laser beam that just hold it down every
now
head.
We know exactly how Fnatic are going to fix everything for stage 2.
Nice.
Perfect.
We've done it for them.
You're welcome, guys.
I want to look
10%.
though at the patch notes that are going to affect us soon. Like not before Masters coming through. And that is obviously the change to Neon. I think it's been a massive talking point for a while. And the shotguns.
Wait, is that before London?
I assume so. I think it was like a 12.9 and then 13 was afterwards.
Really?
I think so.
I was under the presumption that it was after London. So that would be.
I think because that was like what they were calling the emergency patch. Like they were doing it sooner and then 13. Because normally
it has to be before
the round numbers are.
They've already removed her from ranked. They're not going to leave her.
The removal from ranked was because of the
bug. Yeah.
Oh, it was the bug.
The NVIDIA bug.
Okay. That's so strange.
You can see through the walls, and so you could put a Neon wall up and then be a Neon and just shoot people through your own wall.
I just assumed they were like, enough's enough.
No.
You see?
No,
oh my goodness!
It was a bug.
I didn't know that. Wow.
By the way, whenever they come in, we're looking at the shotgun changes and Neon. And I kind of because like I think when the initial video of like Neon's movement went out, people are like that is the same. But
now there's been more clips where it looks like it genuinely like bunny hopping and kind of the air strafing does look genuinely quite bad. It doesn't look like you can't play it if you're like a Danby, even though but it looks viable but not like overpowered. But the weird thing is like we're now sending the teams who've thrived in this meta, and then you're going to just change the most important part of it. So London is going to be very interesting.
Also, you can't get back your, whatever it's called, like the bar. I think it's like from kills, right? It's like I think every kill it would put the bar back all the way to the top, and I think now it will just go up naturally.
Or like for her sprint or for the ult?
For the sprint.
For the sprint, it regens over time, right?
I thought it was when you. There's at least one where maybe I just watched the wrong video, but I'm sure it was when you get the kill, it goes up.
I should know, but
all
we're learning is we don't know anything about Neon as an agent.
Gives me stress and anxiety. I'm just like, I can't.
I'm like, let me get on a custom server. All right.
Yeah,
see how it feels.
I feel like there will be some big winners, like Vitality. Like I think Derek will be happy that, you know, if he gets any excuse to not have to play it, I think he's going to be quite good, because we saw the Jet looking phenomenal from him, and I think that the Jet and Raze has been his.
Isn't he also one of the best Neons in the league for us?
I think that
he's up there.
I think arguably if you go to London, he's not going to be one of the best. So like it's a different level when it gets to London. I think Sliggy was flaming quite hard that EMEA's Neons compared to America's APAC isn't comparable. So it might actually be an EMEA buff if we're okay about that. But then SOP getting nerfed is a bit unfortunate. Thoughts,
yeah, for
Mitch?
sure.
Do you think SOP has really reached the level that was promised from him?
I think that if you look at his FKFD, I think he's doing like the stuff he needs to as a duelist. Obviously, he's not going to look like that Ascension game finals where he just popped off to the point where he looked amazing, because the league is much harder, and you're not going to be able to do that against VCT.
It's also the meta he's coming in on, though, is quite complimentary to him as well, though.
I think he's doing very well. I think that like Neon, like if you look at stats and stuff, like rating is kind of hard. I think eye test wise, he seems to be doing okay. And then when again, like the FKFD is ludicrous in the league. I think he's got like 70 FK to like 40 FD or something, which is for a Neon, I think is impressive.
Pretty
because
reasonable.
Neons are mostly sacrificial lambs a lot of the time. So yeah, he's not like the second coming, but he is very good.
One more thing, actually. Do you have a favorite sort of debut that we've had? Like obviously SOP, we've had Sayonara as well, who I think has shown obviously isn't the same kind of player. Well,
Navera aced the
there was
pistol
a
round.
debut this EMEA that was I guess Sivov, but then it kind of was.
To be fair, both of
catfished in a way.
his debuts, like when he debuted for Vitality as well, he also
Those
just
were
went
good.
crazy.
Yeah.
Like he's the best first match player ever, and then second match not so good.
so Fnatic used him on the wrong match.
Yeah, they should have subbed him in at the end.
Debut on the Vitality game would have been.
Yeah. Oh, that would have been so much pressure. It would have been insane. What about how are we feeling on the shotguns though? Because I saw it again. I feel like it's going to be a lot of people have been talking about the shorty, especially like the jump in accuracy just going into oblivion, which especially with how people use that jumping into smokes and like just to hide it. But I still feel like crouched in a smoke, it's going to be annoying, but it's just getting there to begin with. Like,
that is its role, though. I mean, if you play Valorant and your opponent's on an eco and you're running into a smoke and you've not done anything to check they're not in there, it's just kind of on you.
I'm curious to see how it worked though. Makes with sense. Like a jet dash into a smoke and then just standing there, because like you don't have all the movement and jumping debuffs because it still takes the time obviously to get the gun out, but surely that won't really change
so
too much. So
you mean like smoke invade basically?
Yeah,
with the jet and the shorty.
Because that's still one of the strongest ways to utilize it. Is just invading smoke. But if there's somebody already in there, you're probably gonna be screwed because you'll be moving. I think
the way I see the shorty is at this point, it's like an interesting gun. Like it is overpowered for what it costs.
Yeah,
but I think it's okay to have a gun that has like a cool like mechanic, like it gives some depth to Valorant in a weird way. I think it is too strong where it does decrease, but like to have a gun that like can be used in these weird situations, clearing out smokes, especially when clearing smokes is kind of difficult right now. You don't have much utility to do it. I think there is a space for it that is actually complementary to the strategic depth of the game, but it is just too strong right now. And I think the nerfs look okay from what I've seen, but it might still just be...
Well, I think the Judge will take the biggest hit because of how people are using the Judge. It's like, give it to your Neon player, slide around a corner, and it's like, well, you're taking the movement accuracy of it down massively. I do assume, though, that if you get close enough, that might not matter as much. Like, if I'm here... you're still dead.
Yeah, of course. I think it's going to be interesting to see how, with Neon out, though, or not having that same level of impact, how quickly those shotguns will fall off anyways as a result. Like, you think about the Judge. I think I've seen the Judge in the Neon meta be as impactful on every map in every position as it is in Hookah just holding on the defensive side. Like
the gun is stupid.
It's
and
so
again,
versatile.
Like something that we were worried about, or at least I was worried about into this meta with the lower amount of utility, was shotguns and operators not being able to force them out. And I think that if we track statistics, I'm pretty sure that it does track that those things are definitely hard to deal with. I think even before it was hard to deal with, and they were still a little bit too broken, and people didn't abuse them in the ways that they should. I think even Euro meta, it was a problem that someone like Something could just buy a shotgun a lot of rounds, play close, TP away, play another angle close.
Yeah.
I think if there's always going to be untradeability in the game, and there's always going to be shotguns together, like it's a messy kind of thing to balance around. Teams just don't abuse it as much as necessarily should, but Neon is kind of the obvious like pairing, and so we're seeing how stupid it is. So I'm all for those changes. It's just then with the other changes coming in, where in the future it looks like they might be doing the refresh of the utility or reverting some of the initiator changes, then it might be, I don't know.
I think the one thing I don't get about that though is that, because again we're just looking at the future patch now, is like the initiator changes are like, okay, it was at 40 seconds. That was too much utility. So we went to 60. Now we're just going to middle ground all of them. And I think that's where my problem lies, is that I feel like they should be isolated. Like you shouldn't be looking at every single initiator in the same way. And that's how it's being looked at least for now.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Also, I think that both Strong and Anders, people who are like nerds about all the cycle of info, like they both put out some tweets about how it might affect or might not actually affect the ways that the game are played. Like it used to be at 40 seconds, you could do 3 cycles of the utility. You would have like your initial phase, your second phase, and third phase. And I think some of their work was like describing the fact that the 50 seconds might not actually do as much as you might think for the way that the rhythms work in Valorant. So it could be one of those kind of catfish changes, technically.
Am I mistaken to get 3 unless you have a very long plant that came at the last second? I mean, you basically have to barrier up.
It might be like, because on some maps you don't want to use your util straight away. You want to wait 10 seconds, and if you do that, and then you might have just missed your.
I mean, if they plant at 20 seconds, you're gone.
Yeah. So I think that there's still some work to be done on that. I agree with like the initial philosophy about getting less utility. I think some of the ults there's too much. Like I think the orb changes were quite good. I think having less snowball in those early rounds is good. I just think that the game works on info cycles, and it wasn't random the teams winning who just put a recon out. Like I think there was very much a skill ceiling to the teams you would see who would know how to get information back, and that is completely gone. Like people just hold utility most of the time now for XX.
I do understand though why they want to peel back, because you're to blame for this partly. The idea of like that post plant meta that we ran into for a long time, Fnatic post plants, like Bind especially. I remember just like a million rounds off the top of my head.
Of course, yeah.
Where like every piece of post plant utility was being thrown through. It basically felt like if they plant and you don't retake now, like immediately, the round's over.
I agree with that. I just mean in the sense that information cycling, I think, is key to the game being strategically deep. All the other utility, I agree. Like the Viper stuff was nonsense. I think some of the ults were, even Phoenix ult right now is nonsense.
I think they might be part of the reason that 2 snake bites went. just one going over to tree at the beginning of the round, and then one second.
I do remember the epiphany of like, we would argue a Boaster, because Boaster wanted to play Viper on Bind for a long time, and Domo really didn't want to. And I was like, at a certain point, I was like, okay, we're going to play Viper on Bind, but we have to abuse this post-plant situation, or we have to use like the util more considered. And I remember after that, it was like, oh, wait, no, we are cheesing this hard. Like, that's
ridiculous. Because as well, it just felt like teams did, especially at the start, they didn't know what to do. They were like playing it like it's a normal retake, 20 seconds gone. They're like, backside's clear, guys. Like the round's over. To go and save, the round is over. You just see 4 of your guys just stood there staring at the sky.
Well, nowadays, the depth you would, like, I think this still is the separation between, earlier I was saying Paperrex, the depth there that people don't realize. Paperrex's depth is that they're always going to push out and pressure your flanks. And so they're not going to let you stand with a piece of utility. Exactly. They're going to be like having someone behind you. And so like that wasn't part of the game back then at 100%, all. Whereas now there are great teams who can do that.
So what you're saying is when Lothar said, just push them, he was actually correct.
Just push them. Well, I mean, push the other side of the map and flank them, maybe.
Well, I remember
block it.
I do feel like I remember a couple
the headbutt.
opportunities where Nats was causing issues in those post-plant setups, like especially Bind, especially back in the day, because he was one of the guys who would do that. He would always be rapping. If you took A space, he was taking B space. You guaranteed it. But yeah, you're right. It was just something that wasn't really, I guess, thought about that much at the time.
So
you guys forced everyone to think about it.
we've talked about the initiator changes. There's one initiator that you're a bit of a hater of.
That's true, actually.
We wanted to
I'm a
talk
hater
about...
of a few. It's just we don't need to get to the others because other people defend the obvious one, and then
Okay, so why do you hate Breach? What has Breach done to you?
I think I hate Breach because I thought, like, back in 2023 when we played Loud on Haven, I thought it was kind of clear that we struggled on that Haven because our Breach versus the Viper, and I know that since then, like, the Viper comps are crap because Phoenix and there's some other stuff, but in my head I was like, that's really bad. And then like Lotus, we saw that we were running Viper, and back then a lot of teams were running Breach, and so it's just this obvious kind of thing that happened where the Viper comps were just destroying the Breach comps because we were able to do stuff. We were able to, like, we didn't care that you use your stun. We now got a Viper ward to go retake that space. We can also bait your traps really easily on a lot of these maps. We're not dumb. We know that you got a stun, and if you use it at the start of the round, we're going to have protocols to deal with the fact that you've just used your stun. You don't have it for 40 seconds or however long it is. Now 60 seconds, which is pointless.
Yeah.
Or we know that you're holding it, and that means that you're now going to be trying to trap us on the space. And all we need to do is create a situation where you think we're taking that space, bait at your stun, and then you've got nothing. And so you can just see, like, that is like the logical reasons why. And then on defense, obviously, when they're attacking with the Breach, we know to not just stand still on sites and just let you full exec us. We're going to either be disrupting your initial default or playing more for retake style, and then you've used all your util. We got a better retake than you. We're pushing your flanks. We're kind of concaving you. So I think that's just very easy game plans. To me, like I say easy, I think in my teams it was pretty easy to do this stuff. Maybe other people don't find it as easy. And then like that's all like the like subjective, like logical, tactical stuff. And I just look at the win rate, and I'm like, you could ignore everything I just said and just look at the win rate and be like, historically, one of the worst agents of all time has never really been dominant at all. You could argue with win rates, you're like, well, yeah, but maybe some teams don't use it well. It's like Breach isn't hard skill ceiling wise. It is a very like plug and play kind of agent. Even the best team in the world isn't going to increase that win rate much. To talk about an agent like Yoru, who might be closer to that 50% in the middle, the best teams in the world are going to push that win rate up because there's a high skill ceiling to it. So even with data analysis, I'm interpreting it in a fairly like nice way. And it's like, I've used Breach in the past, back when it was a little bit stronger. I don't think that was the peak of Valorant strategy. I think that we kind of got away with some stuff back then. So yeah, I think for Breach is like, when I do Valorant analysis on agents, especially for the desk, I think if I'm not able to give criticism over a Breach pick, it means that I can't really give criticism over any picks, because I think it's just the worst kind of pro play viable agent that gets picked. And I think it's one of those things where, because there was some pushback or some discussion about it, it has made me a better analyst, because it makes me think about the ways that I just brush over some of these topics and don't go through all those lines of thinking quite a lot. I still shorthand a lot of my analysis in a way that the casual viewer probably can't understand.
Well, Reyna has 100% win rate in America.
That is true,
so
yeah.
Everybody
exactly.
should be picking Reyna.
Relax.
That Rankers game was incredible to watch. Rankers, I keep calling them Rankers. Envy game.
How exactly do we change that then? What's the solution?
Well, you had an idea.
For Breach?
Well, I read an idea more so. I was going to propose
for Breach,
to you.
it's a really hard agent to balance, because it's always either going to be too strong or too weak, I think.
Oh, he's got one that'll make it too strong.
I've got one.
Okay.
What about, and say we keep it at the 60 seconds for now, but the stun, much like a sky flash, he goes, stunned, got him, something like that. If he hits someone, he gives vocal confirmation someone was hit.
I don't think it does anything.
You don't think, because that was a take I saw on Reddit that I was like, that's kind of interesting.
It's interesting. It is interesting, but I don't think using it like an info cycle tool, no, I don't think it really does much. And I think like people don't, I think sometimes some of the smaller changes with agents don't have anywhere near as much impact as people think. Like I think back to the Raise Boom Bot nerf, that was like, it was quite significant on paper, and I was panicking as a coach.
Wasn't it?
It was the range in 2023, and I was like, oh my god, this is incredible. Like, this is insane. We can't do loads of our defaults. And I didn't really do that much ultimately. I think there has to be pretty significant changes.
I think it like took away one corner in hookah that you couldn't clear. Unbind, attack.
Haven, sewers default kind
And
of
sewers,
became,
yeah. But yeah, so what do you think then? What's the key to it? Because again, everything I can think of is
It
either too
blinds you
strong
if
or
it hits you. There you go.
I think the
the ult actually does
flashes
something.
aren't very good, so the flashes might need to be better. But then ultimately, if you play with the stun too much, it is going to be too strong.
Yeah.
I think ultimately it's just an agent
too
that's
weak right now, right? The stun,
It lights you on fire if you touch it.
It's like
you just die.
The beat, there's like a line, the thin line in the middle of it, that if you touch it, instant death.
I think Breach is a fun
That's an idea.
premier level kind of agent. It's never going to be good in ranked because ranked is about running at people and just not using utility. It's never going to be good in pro play because people are easily can avoid the traps. At least in the state of the meta right now, obviously it gets buffed and a bit
So do you
different.
think he needs a harbor rework?
A rework?
Because I think like at the end of the day, Riot's goal can't be to have 5 agents who are just 0% pick rate, or even if they're picked, they have 20% win rate. Like that's not what they're gonna want. They like balance. They like viability.
Could be some kind of rework on the tables.
Do you think that's the easiest way?
The stun, maybe instead of a really long stun, it's more of a the range isn't across the whole map or something. I don't know.
Yeah,
I have no idea. But even with it across the map, it doesn't. It would have to have multiple stun charges. I don't know. In my head, I'm just like Neon exists. Like it stuns people. It goes fast. It does everything that technically archetypally.
What about the charge? What about the charge up if it was just automatically full speed? Does
The
that make a
more you
difference?
hold it, just hold it the whole round.
No,
it eats them out of the map.
Yeah,
Like I
I'm
said,
saying
I
there's
think
no
the
charge,
issue is
just
like there's
activation.
like just a problem of it either becomes too strong or it's like,
Yeah.
because you
It's a
can't.
hard
There's
one to
no
work out.
counterplay to it. If it hits you, you are dead, or you should be dead. If it doesn't hit you, then you've won the round. Is basically how I see it.
If it hits you, it puts your gun away for 1 second.
It's a vice ult now. My
That would
gun's
be-
jammed.
You stunned. It's just like it's just the equip time. It just goes.
I think the best.
No, it's like it makes you drop your gun. Oh, I'm stunned. Oh, yeah, that could work.
The best
Could be onto
example of
something.
like an anti-strat I can remember is like when we played EG on Lotus Tokyo. I remember I told Durka about all the kind of traps they had on Breach, and every single round, like I wish we had like the listeners back then. Durka every single round was like, they haven't used stun, they've used stun, and then knew exactly how to bait out their traps, and we beat them like 13-1 or something. And after I remember being like, they're kind of embarrassing for them, and like it was just a really nice way to show how a team or a player can just work around that agent, and how over time Valorant's become smarter game, I would hope. There are elements of Valorant right now I think is worse than 2023 in terms of theory, but I think that breaches people know how to play around it, or at least they should. Yeah.
Well, now I kind of want to move us on to what we have coming up over the next week. Obviously, there's only a few games left in EMEA, but one of them at least is pretty defining for either of the teams. I think that we're looking at the potential of Heretics. If they make it to an event after not making kickoff, I think most people would say that's acceptable, especially after the changes. They're a team that have very high standards. If they don't make it, though, I feel like we then start looking at Heretics in a similar vein even to Fnatic and go, you didn't make the first two. That's a poor start to this year, especially with the players they have.
Yeah, I think for Heretics, it's probably the last time, because they're like an analyst's worst nightmare in the sense that there are some weeks where it looks like they have one of the highest skill ceilings in the world. The playbooks and the strategy all looks beautiful. There's stuff that I'm genuinely inspired by. And then some weeks I'm like, where did all that go? Like it doesn't look connected at all. It looks nervous and it doesn't look well thought out. And the potential is there. It's just whether they actually do it. And I think I've predicted Eternal Fire to win that game.
It's kind of a weird one because like versus pretty much anyone other than Eternal Fire over the last 3 or 4 weeks, they've looked very, very good. Like they had some super explosive games. I think Koshmaris has been incredible. Like I think they took him off Chamber was one of the best Neons we have in the league. Like he was fantastic. I think it then even gave space. Like we started seeing Rian's coming back. We started seeing Woot coming back. So it's just like, I don't know what comeback was doing, but it's clear that him leaving had a positive impact on everything that was going on within the team, which is not the greatest marketing pitch for him after the last 3 teams. But then Eternal Fire are just kind of different gravy. Like they're so aggro. Every team coming into them knows exactly what they're going to do. Yeah. I think Echo has had some of the best plays I've ever seen and some of the worst within the same like
they're the same plays.
The same game. I think it was like the ace he got on Pearl where he's jumped up over the top of a cosmic divide. Yeah. And just like fighting everything. And then you go to Split where he rushes out of his Viper's Pit on the last round, gets killed, the Viper's Pit drop, and they get owned.
Oh, yeah.
Like, it's just like, that's the same guy. And it's like, they're so hard to play against because you go, I basically have to predict the riskiest thing
like
in this scenario.
It's like early Paper X in a sense where it's just that kind of
so if Mini joins them, they're going to win Masters.
Well, I mean, they're a lot. They developed a lot between that kind of early point where we were a bit more like memeing on them. Yeah, I think it's going to be a banger of a game. I think the Eternal Fire, Eternal Firepower, I was about to say. That is true. Like, it's just like all of their players are just ludicrous. Like, I think it's every player can shoot and every player steps up in those moments. And, you know, we do highlight Echo quite a lot for some of those like plays, but like statistically across the board, it's quite nice. And then it feels eye test wise, it feels like they're all kind of just anyone can in one moment 2v4 like constantly. I think they're the team that wins the most amount like 2vx's that I've ever seen.
It's kind of crazy though that you come into that matchup and you say Heretics are the analyst nightmare and not the guys who do the craziest thing possible.
It's easier to be like they're gonna do
Viper's Pit, he's gonna push out of it.
They're gonna do crazy things and I can't tell you what they're gonna be, but they're gonna be crazy. Whereas the Heretics is like, I'm trying to pitch them as this a really good cerebral team that's gonna do great stuff. There's some of the map fear is beautiful, and then it just sometimes just falls apart. It's a bit like with doing agent select stuff, like I said. Like sometimes I'm like, oh, no Sova on Breeze, that's horrible. Oh wait, the other team didn't punish it at all. I look like a fraud. But I think it's still there. It's just it doesn't always translate to wins.
Sure, yeah.
You know?
Yeah, that's normal.
Analysis is hard sometimes.
Well, it is decently difficult.
I want to make it more difficult because at this stage I don't know this, so I'm going to put it on you because you're the only analyst sat at the table. Who's going to win?
Well, I think I predicted Eternal Fire.
To win the whole
the high
bracket.
thing.
Because that's the thing. It's like my go-to at the beginning was Fnatic. I was like, I don't think it matters what happens. Like you get to the end, Fnatic win.
That went well.
That's normally how it goes, especially in stage 1, stage 2. But I don't look at any of the 4 teams and go, they are a massive favorite.
No, I don't either. I would like Vitality to win because I think the team, if we send, like for our region, I think sending them as the first seed is probably the nicest.
Is them skipping the group stage a good thing, though?
I think so. I think they need time.
They need time. I think the time can come in practice. I don't think they need the official reps as much.
I would agree that
that's what I mean. They need time as in to jump through to have that extra time to prepare.
Sure.
I would say of the 4 teams, I think the other 3 will benefit way more from momentum.
Yes.
I think that like a Heretics momentum is just
whereas Vitality, they're a
team.
bit more systematic in their approach. And then if you play a full group stage and you've got a system, you can start poking holes and figuring stuff out. Whereas the other teams, the systems, I mean, Heretics are a bit more like that, but especially with Foot and Eternal Fire, their system is a little bit different it's a bit more unreadable in a weird way. Like it doesn't matter what their system is, they're gonna do weird stuff.
It's just a basic formula of the more Turkish players you have in a team, the more likely you are to benefit from momentum. I think that's that's genuinely how it works at this point. Yeah, I mean, look, I wouldn't be inclined to take your word for it, Minnie, because your predictions have been awful so far. I heard what you said about the tier list.
Did you want to bring that up now? We didn't do it earlier.
What made you think that
Can we show Mitch's?
You want me to be real or you want me to troll?
Foot was going to be good. I presume there's some insider trading going on here.
There was a little bit. First of all, they gave me a lot of hoodies and jerseys, so I like them. But real talk, it was because I spoke to a lot of people. I'll out Pal as one of them when it comes to Sociable. And the idea for me of Sociable first joining the league, going back to when he first came in, he's old and he's playing like Chamber and stuff. I was like, I'm not sure that this adds up, right? Like
he's not that old.
He's pretty ancient. He's really old, like extremely old.
That context sounds like you're being really mean.
Yeah.
I'm making fun of Tom's older than him. That's why I'm saying I'm sorry.
I am also older, but
but it wasn't a dig at you, and you know.
Okay.
Did you feel like you were being attacked there? I'm sorry, Minnie. But genuinely, Foot. So I I was always curious about him, and always had a lot of questions, and every question came with, you know, a fantastic answer from the coaching staff or ex-players he worked with, their players he was currently working with. Everyone spoke super highly of him. But the main thing was that I heard a lot of people say that he should have stayed as the IGL of Navi.
Really?
And that to me shocked me, because you're telling me that a man who every time we've had an interview with him has a translator, he should have been the IGL of an English-speaking team.
He was IGLing in the Turkish
compliment.
league before he got to VCT, right?
Yes. I heard this from Yumpy, right?
Yeah.
Yumpy told us that the other week. And so, like, he has the experience, but to do it in English when he needs a translator for an interview, that's a very big vote of confidence to give the guy. And I honestly believe in the roster. Like, I genuinely believe in him as an IGL. And I said, you know, I do think that if I was being 100% honest, they deserve to be in the dark horse category, which I think is where you drag them down to. I wanted to be a little crazy with it.
Have a little bit of
I thought it was a worthwhile gamble.
Out of curiosity, if you were to drag them down, who would you have put up, or will you just have left it as
Me.
2? Yeah.
You
would. I think you just would have left it as 2. And
I think I would have. I think I would have had 2 for London, and then because I would have been relatively confident that between Foot and Eternal Fire, one of them would make it. Like, to be that upset category. But I also would have been right there with you. The only thing I think we agreed on was Fnatic being or did you have Vitality as well?
I can't remember. I probably put Vitality. I don't remember, to be honest with you.
But I know I think we were both pretty certain that Fnatic was going to make it.
The thing about Sociable is interesting, because the way I usually see if a player could be an IGL is I look at the way they're playing their own kind of plays. And like, he was playing Recon quite a lot with Na'Vi. And I thought that he wasn't the smartest or most cerebral Recon player. It looked like he was struggling quite a lot. So in my head, I was like, that's usually a weird test that I have to see, you know, someone like Leo. I'm like, oh, this guy, I know he's got the kind of smarts to do that kind of stuff, or Rians. But yeah, so Sociable, I was like, I didn't quite connect on that way. But then the experience, and then maybe that's just a bad test. Maybe my test just doesn't actually work very well. I don't know.
I think there is, though, just a lot to be said for the vouches of people that I mean, if you hear someone that you respect vouching for them, and I heard a lot of people that I very much respect their opinions on the game, their scouting ability, their ability to identify talent, and they all pointed towards him being a good fit for Navi as an IGL, right? And that, to me, then the fact that he was going to a team where he could speak his national language, the comfort would be there. And I think, you know, there always seems to be something different when a player's flying their own flag as well. Like,
no, I agree. Like with Comeback, for instance, I think that now the inevitable turn is maybe a Turkish team, and hopefully we see a bit more of a resurgence there. Yeah,
well, shit, you put me in a 5-stack ranked game with 4 Turkish dudes, I'm not going to do nearly as well. I'm not going to do well either way. I'm going to do a lot worse in that environment than the other way. I understand.
So just to bring this back to like analysis, because obviously I'm kind of new to the talent stuff, and I've kind of got the attitude where like I try and like distance myself. Like, I don't talk to Fnatic very much about anything. I try and distance myself from people that I know. But it seems like in that avenue, you've actually hit on good analysis in a way. Do you find at all, though, if you're in that space where like you're talking to people where like sometimes it detracts, or where
no, not at all. I've said for a long time, Cupid's the best player in the world, and Pacific are going to win. It doesn't give me any bias. No, like I think there's always going to be taking things with a pinch of salt. Like, you definitely run the risk of, you know, what coach are you ever going to speak to is going to go, oh, that player I picked up, dog. Like, it's never going to happen, right?
Be surprised.
Well, actually, now that I think about it, but not many coaches will do that. It's probably not great for team morale if you're going around. But Navi, though, So
I think my attitude is like, I like to react in the moment as much as I can, and then I feel like if I know stuff, sometimes I'm like, am I just saying this because I kind of know behind the scenes something?
So I would do it for player specific. Like vouchers for things like, for example, there's some players that I've said he's bad, he's playing bad, I hate watching him play, why is he here? That would be how I interpret watching them play. And then I need someone like Pal or someone else to say, no, actually what he's doing is this, and then I understand more. It helps fill in blanks for me, for sure. But I think I never want to, for example, know that OKC's running this comp on this map, or this is how they're cracking in the offseason. I'm not interested in that. I am interested in to
Well,
an
it's like-
extent, scrim books of
Oh,
what players
I
are
don't
great.
care about scrim books at all.
Only for players. It's like if someone tells me this guy's dropping like 50 every single scrim
Well,
they play,
wasn't
then that means something.
wasn't the koi of like, was it like a year or so ago, winning like every scrim?
But again,
like, that was
who
the
cares?
rumor.
Who cares if they're winning? It's like if
And then they didn't win a
if
game.
they're winning or losing every game, but like you've got Shados dropping 30 every map. I'm like,
Was
well,
it- is it
something's
like-
going right with Shados
Was
right
it
now.
is it DRX that it's like if the scrim boxes they're bad, they're going to be really good the event, and if the scrim boxes they're good, they're going to be really bad the event.
But it's also, you hear it from every single team. Every team that bombs out or does poorly. Guys, you go to KC and ask me, you go to Pacific, you'll hear the same thing. Scrims are great. Scrims look great. Blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
Like, it is something that I think, you're never going to get out of a player what you see in scrims on an official. You might get close to it, but you're not going to get it out.
There
so-
is some truth to scrim bucks, but you can't trust that. Like if I'm in a script, like I remember scrimming against Lev back in the day. I can't remember which year, maybe 2022.
Okay.
And that was Owner's team, and they were incredible in scrims. They were the best scrim team we had. They pushed us to the limit. I think it was 2023 actually, and then they didn't do amazing in the tournament. But my interpretation was, well, the potential definitely was there. They just didn't quite hit it.
Okay.
Against other teams who, they think they're doing well in scrims, maybe they're just not really, and they're interpreting not the same way. But whenever my team's doing well in scrims, I'm usually more happy than not.
Well,
so.
of course, but you also, I think, there's the fact you never know what you're sitting opposite. Like this could be a team that goes, well, we never play Haven this way, but let's
Sure.
run this random comp or even the same comp, but swap sites and let's play everything different. Let's try pushing every round. And
I
see
mean,
what happens.
this is something when I was working on Paper X, I think that it was very differently interpreted. Was that like we win some scrims like 20-4, and I have like 3 pages of notes. And then Alex would be like, oh, the scrim was fine. I was like, I do have 3 pages of notes for this one.
Exactly.
And then they might like lose a scrim, and I'd be like, I haven't really got any notes. We just kind of lost this
It's
one.
lost.
And
Yeah.
I think it does take, a bit of coaching staff and a bit of like player humbleness to kind of
I
figure
guess it
out
also
that stuff.
depends what your opponent's doing, because there's like scrims you play to win for confidence,
Yeah, that's what I'm
scrims
saying, yeah.
you play
Sure.
to test,
Practice
stupid
your A
shit.
fake.
Like
That's it.
it could be anything. I kind of then want to like move us on a little bit to about Masters London as a whole, because I think that there's been some community reaction of like, my favorite team's not going, I don't know if I want to go, or not even so much that, it's like, is it going to be a good event now?
Yeah.
I'll be honest with you, I get it to an extent. Like I think Fnatic not going is sad for the local fans in London, but I think with the current teams we have, I think I might actually be more excited. Like I think especially like looking at Pacific, I think global esports going, I think is really cool. I think that'll be a really fun storyline.
I think the only thing for me would be that I want to watch the best Valorant possible, and that's not saying that. Again, like I'm gonna fool myself into a trap, because I think like Pansy made a comment on the Reddit thread that was like, because someone said something about
Yeah.
and she was like, well, people want to watch. People are like delusional about their own teams like not being good or something. It was kind of along that kind of logic, which I think is true. Like, if we sent Fnatic at this very second, they're not going to do amazing. But in my head, I'm like, there is a skill ceiling with some teams, like, and there's a popularity with some teams that does bring gravitas to an event. Like, Paper X don't make it. I think that's like a bit disappointing if we don't see like a G2 NRG, we don't see the Fnatic. Like, there are a few teams that you kind of do want at those events.
I'd say EDG as well. Like I think EDG
True.
not being
Yeah.
there is always sad.
Yeah, but and then like the other thing is like kickoff to me, Santiago was already that kind of event. We already had a lot of teams there were new. We had like Nongshim winning, and so for me, it's like back-to-back events where it is a little bit more, not random, but like there's different teams going.
I'm curious,
Narrative
though.
building is a bit harder, I think.
So I agree in a sense, but there's some teams where I don't think it applies as much. So,
Sure.
for example, Liquid are always a team that go, but if they miss one, I never really feel quite the same, because I don't have the expectation that they could win. So I feel like it's only really teams. It's not necessarily of like this team has massive history or even any of those things. It's, do I think they could win?
Sure.
And if they're not there, then
I think
it's
my interpretation is for
unfortunate.
every region, I would like them their first and maybe second seed to be, we can win the event. And then the
Okay.
third seed is that spice. Whereas right now they're sending like a lot of spice.
But okay, then follow-up question. In EMEA, who is a team you think could win?
Well, that's the problem. Is
That-
like,
that's it, innit?
But
So-
historically,
Yes.
it would have been.
Really? Like so? Like I feel like I've fallen out the boat here.
Mhm.
You tell me you don't think Vitality could win? Heretics,
Oh
if they
yeah,
make
no, they
it,
could win. They,
right?
they Vitality could win. Yeah,
I could
yeah.
definitely see them with
Yeah,
the
yeah.
turnaround. I would be relatively confident that if we send any of these four. I mean, EF for me are a little bit more of an underdog on the international stage. Like, I don't know how they're going to deal if they crumble there, if they lose. Like, there's a lot of things.
I think my point is, I would like, if the region doesn't have 2 teams to do it, then it's fine. But I would, in America, I don't want to talk about EMEA all the time because I end up talking about Fnatic all the time. In Americas, I'd love it to be NRG and G2, both who did terribly in the groups. I would argue there's some obvious
Who's
reasons
number
why.
3?
Number
Who's
3,
your dark horse spicy
like,
team?
Lev.
Okay.
Like that kind of vibe. That's the fun. Those tournaments are the most fun to me.
What did you want
personally.
it to be in EMEA then for it to fit that?
Well, now it's crap because it doesn't fit because I don't think Fnatic would win. But before, obviously everyone put, it wasn't just me. Everyone thought Fnatic were going to be in that top 3. They're the team that does the most.
To be honest,
I
want my third team to just be whatever team Aspas is on from America.
That is also true. That is also
because just his skill ceiling is so high.
America's there's a lot of teams where I don't mind who they send. I'm not disappointed. I think Foot and Eternal Fire going is cool.
Yeah.
But if we look at the event after and they don't do so well, I do think there will be some narratives of we keep sending these kind of relatively inexperienced teams that don't do so well.
I like the idea of Heretics going, just because I don't feel like they'll have any aspect of pressure or, like you said, gravitas.
I could see them winning the event.
I could see, I right now because everything's so close, and then the teams that we sent last time didn't look like they particularly had any chance of winning. I think BBL.
I think that's my worry. It's we do that again.
I think there's at least the good of Vitality over the last couple of weeks still doesn't drown out the questions I have.
I don't think you can average Vitality's performance. I think if you graph it right now, there was a long bottom out of it, but it's curving up pretty quick.
Sure, but then I think that you look at the other teams from other regions that are being sent, where it's okay, sure. I think Pacific, you've got those sort of dark horse factors off rip, which is a little bit worrying. But if they send PaperX, I think the PaperX have no additional pressure going to internationals because they've been there so many times. They have such a high skill ceiling on every single one of their players. They have their own identity that's very difficult to play against. Whereas if Vitality's still figuring out aspects of it, like you said, they've improved, but to hit what we want as a ceiling,
they also haven't played
higher.
any teams that just punch you in the face yet.
True.
With their,
But then also you go up against teams.
Good read when they play Foot.
Yeah,
exactly.
You go up against teams that have more of their style. I don't think they've hit anybody that has a crazy peak. Whereas you go up against an NRG, they're gonna have those they can make you feel awkward. They can do things that other teams can't necessarily do.
I would presume the fans are disappointed that fan favorite teams just might be missing out.
True.
I think my perspective on it is that I really love the fact that teams like Global Esports are going to be there. I love that it's not just Premi, but Premi's going to be there. I love the fact that we're seeing a lot of different teams. We're seeing a lot of spice. It's just me. I always want to see the best Valorant possible, and so I like the mixture of the spice with the best possible.
Sure.
If you're losing right now, then you're losing right now. I can't really defend that, but it's kind of I think some people might take my takes as oh, he just wants Fnatic to be there and that's it. Where it's not really. It's that mixture between...
You only want them to be there when you're coaching them. You want them to fail, so you look like the greatest coach of all time.
I think there is... when I left the team, there is that little bit of a bit of my ego, and then... But no, now I want them. It's just...
They've lost for too long that you now actually start to feel a little bit guilty.
Speaking of losing for too long, it's been 1,000 days. That's what I saw on a little video.
Yeah, who was in that video?
They mentioned Fnatic actually,
and ping pong balls.
They were going to be great. That's true. No Kit Kats. So we were looking at sort of Masters in general, and I want to know then what's your view on where we stand right now in the EMEA? Are we breaking that 1,000-day curse?
Are we a top 4 region?
Yeah, top 4 region. I think in my head, the region strength is APAC and Americas is close. I think America's probably going to send teams that have a little bit more experience when it comes to global events, I think, depending how the playoffs goes. Whereas APAC are going to be sending teams with less experience. Okay. And so that is a weakness, despite the fact that they're good teams. So I would put APAC first, but because the teams are sending, PaperX might not even be there. There might be some issues. So I think that APAC and America is very close, and I think we come in just after that, and then China comes after that.
Okay. No, that makes
doesn't mean that we can't win the event or the teams we're sending can't win, especially with how wide open I think the meta is and overall how wide open some of these tournaments are.
Well, do you know what? I think we've asked Mini a lot of questions. We've had a lot of discussions. We're going to hear from you guys. We've got some community questions coming up, which, of course, make sure to look out for the tweets, look out for Instagram, maybe even comment them under the video if you have questions for the upcoming weeks as well. But yeah, let's get into our first of the community questions. We have got Toby W. Is Yoru ever going to come back from the grave he's been dug into? I'll leave that one to Mini.
No, I still think that there's angles where he is okay. I think the unfortunate thing is some teams, even we've seen Nongshim revert back to the Yoru and not looking amazing. And so it's like the way players work a lot of the time, or teams work, is they'll look at other teams. If they're doing bad with something, just forget about it. So I think that unfortunately the propaganda for him is pretty bad. I do think PaperX running it on Ascent is something I would actually be looking into. I think on that map specifically on the defense, some of the ways you can put like TP, he can be a B anchor, have your TP off the site. You can wait. You don't have to like pre-place your TP.
Yeah.
You can wait for the hit, put your TP out and kind of get out. Attack side, the Jet is historically catfish, basically. The dashes in don't actually do as much as people think. And so there are some angles, especially with Vice as well. It's something we didn't really talk about is America's APAC. One of the narratives there, London, is like America's playing a lot of that Vice right now, and I think ahead of the meta in some regards. Some of the things maybe I was critical of EMEA is we just kind of do some double duelists, but don't really have many other angles to look at. So yeah, the Yoru could be used there as like a counter to Vice necessarily, and you know, I mean, like Anders was talking about this a long time ago about, you know, Vice interactions and stuff. So I don't think he's going to be dug out of the grave he's been dug into, but there might be
able to climb out.
There might be some smart grave diggers.
Just die that, yeah. We're going to clip that out of context with nothing else.
Beautiful little snippet from Mini. Wow, we'd love to see that. No, I do think that's the thing. It's like, will he trampoline back to where he was? Yeah, no, it's not going to happen unless they buff him massively. But
or they nerf everything else.
Yeah,
even lower.
Well, that's something again. Like Phoenix got 2 flashes, Yoru only has 1. Even like that feels a bit of an imbalance. Phoenix got 6 pip ult, isn't it? 6 pip or 7?
Yeah,
like it's
in the same way. I think Phoenix will have a nerf coming for him because of the uptick now, and it's the same thing we talked about earlier with Viper, where you were saying that Viper back in the day was way too strong. Yeah, look at how much debate it took to get her played. Look at how many teams didn't play her at all back in those days. And so, you know, you had the snake bites, you could put the wall and the orb up, you could move the orb, you could put the orb up, take it off the floor.
Moving the orb now seems crazy.
Right? It's so strong, but no one appreciated how much power they were being given. And it took the community realizing it. It took the community abusing it for Riot to then go, okay, now you found how strong she should be. Let's bring her down to a reasonable level. And I think we could be looking at the same thing. Like I think that's pretty prevalent across Valorant in general. So even if Yoru right now, he might not be in a state where he's dead, but like you said, the community just has this opinion of he's dead, he is.
This leads on nicely as well to the next question from Lenny, which is, what gun do you think is underrated or not used enough?
Odin, next question.
That is true. I would agree. The Odin isn't used enough.
What about the Ares on Neon? That looked pretty good.
Pick your words carefully.
The Ares on Neon, I wasn't a fan. That was Koshmara's, wasn't it?
Yep.
I don't really understand it over the Bucky.
It's because they were using it in main at the start just to put the Neon wall up, slide, and spam the actual Neon wall.
Okay, on Lotus?
On Lotus, yeah. On Lotus, yeah.
I would say my answer is the Bandit. Like, I genuinely think we've started... Because it was... In pro play, it was so... up until, like, a couple of weeks ago, where I think we've seen the Turkish team start using it a bit. Yeah. It was basically just not used. Or it was, like, every once in a while in an Antica, you'd see someone get one kill.
Team Liquid started buying it on pistol rounds, which is curious.
On pistols, because I've seen an uptick in Sheriff usage. I feel like the Bandit carries a lot of value against the rifle because it can bridge the gap on, you know, not medium range, but the medium end of short range. But like on pistols, I don't see the benefit. Like at least with the Sheriff, you get 2 tap bodies. Like you one shot headshot any range.
Was just really good with it. Was basically what it looked like.
So it's just feeling.
Fair
maybe.
Enough.
I think for me, the Odin, like I think there are other guns that represent that space of the Bandit a little bit. I don't think there's any overlap with the Odin though, and so that's why I'm surprised it doesn't get used, especially after Brox. I know they nerfed some of the walls and stuff, but I am surprised that Odin is.
That didn't upset you at all, did it, Mitch?
No, No, not even slightly. There are map designers out there who have limited days before they hear from me in a very aggressively worded
It's going to be like, I messaged you, but you're not responding.
literally Stan. But yeah, I do think that like with Kosh, just speaking about the Ares and where they used it, he was doing the same thing with the Odin. It was literally neon wall up, slide to rubble, spray that just the entire neon wall. I think as well because you can't jump up as easily now. He can literally fish in a barrel you. And he did have a decent amount of, I think he got like a 3K in one of the rounds against the full buy with it. With that, really annoyed me.
The Odin looks cool with him. The Ares, I'm just like,
hell yeah.
I remember
I knew we invited the right guy.
I remember there was a few because I enjoyed watching him get
every
close to
time
the
this
Ares.
dude would do like 30 damage with an Ares, I'd be like, see, wow, that's pretty impressive, isn't it, Mitch? Eating your words.
I think Sliggy would say the Stinger is still underrated, but I still think that stats wise it's not proven yet.
I find it hard to believe because it had its time in the sun so recently.
Yeah.
I feel like people are still keen to try it, and it's just not
It's
catching.
like I think G2 were just so much better statistically than anyone else that I don't then mean that it's bad. It's just that no one was using it maybe as well as them, or maybe the other interpretation is they just found some magic that no one else could find, and it was just a flash in the pan.
I wouldn't be surprised that with all the shotguns getting nerfed, if maybe it comes back a bit.
Yeah,
Because I think that's the other thing. Is like, why would you bother when you can have a shotgun that then into the next round in a buy round you can still use viably? So kill the shotguns. Maybe you get some of the SMGs coming back because like
I mean,
the Spectre's been dead recently.
Oh no, people started using it. There was some
Really?
there was some America's people using
I don't
it on
watch enough
defense.
Americas, evidently.
we see it in like a couple round 2s and 3s. Like
Yeah, people started using it on round
1 out of 5
twos
players.
in
Okay.
Americas,
Yeah.
which is interesting.
we saw it in the EMEA as well. We saw a handful of round 2s in the last few games, but it was definitely rare.
I think truthfully, all of the quote gimmick guns that aren't the Vandal, Phantom, the kind of non Counter-Strike guns in my head are all underused in my opinion.
Okay, well there you go. That is one hell of an answer. Everything bar 2 guns is
Like the shotguns, the
Yeah.
SMGs, the even Frenzy, like the slightly off balance guns, I think are still underused. Even in Neon uses them a lot, but on the whole, when Neon gets, let's say we got rid of Neon right now, I would argue that those guns would be underused for sure.
Well, those are our community questions. I think we have definitely answered those thoroughly. And all I really have to say is I think we might have taken up enough of Minnie's time. I think it's been almost 2 hours. So all I'll say is thank you very much for taking the time, Minnie. It's been a pleasure.
Problem. Thank you for inviting me.
No problem. It's been great, man. It's good having you. Next time, can you bring me one of those protein shakes? I appreciate that.
Don't do that.
What is it? I've said this the second time you've referenced that.
Yeah, so I had a really bad day on broadcast one week.
It was the day with the telestrator.
And to top it off, I was so stressed I didn't bother drinking this protein shake that I had, and that caused me to.
I like that he's saying Trevor and you're just maniacally laughing.
I left it in my
was a
bag,
great day.
and Hypoc, Mitch, and me were driving, and we were dropping off Mitch, and then Hypoc heard a bang. Or
there was
Mitch heard
a pretty loud bang. It sounded like his tire burst.
and I knew immediately what it was. I knew
He
for
didn't
some
say-
reason.
for 10 minutes.
I was like, no. I didn't know about the bang. But when we dropped you off, then Hypoc was like, let's check the boot because there's a bang.
Okay.
And then I was like, I think that could have been
I was going to
a
say, were you
protein
sat for
shake.
10 minutes like,
No,
there's a protein shake.
If I heard the bang,
Soak it into your car,
Yeah.
brother. Enjoy it.
soaking into my £3,000 laptop, which then didn't.
Yeah, that doesn't sound quite as funny.
Yeah, it is.
You're a bad
broken.
person.
I forgot about that part till right
So
now.
I lost $3,000 that day on top of all the other crap
I
that
feel
happened that day.
it's gonna make me look really bad for laughing at you like that.
Well, and that is a perfect way to end the show. Thank you very much, guys, for watching. Minnie, it has been an absolute pleasure.
Thank
Mitch, you are an awful human being. Make sure to drop in your questions for next week.